The message came on a Tuesday. All across Earth, screens flickered to the same broadcast. The alien face that appeared was smooth and gray, with 6 eyes arranged in a circle. When it spoke, its voice was flat and emotionless. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Vex of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been observed for decades. The time has come for your integration. You will join us as a Level 3 vassal species or face removal. You have 7 days to decide. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. In the war room beneath the United Nations building in New York, 20 world leaders sat in stunned silence. General Wilson was the first to speak. They can't be serious. We barely have space stations, let alone weapons to fight aliens. President Clark rubbed her temples. We need options, any options. From the back of the room, a man cleared his throat. Captain Tom Reed wasn't supposed to be there. As head of Earth's small salvage fleet, he wasn't important enough for crisis meetings, but his expertise with alien tech had earned him an observer seat. Madam President, he said, standing up, I might have an idea. All eyes turned to him. Reed was tall and weathered, with short gray hair and hands covered in old burned scars from years of working with hot metal. The Council follows certain rules, he explained. I've studied the transmissions we've intercepted over the years. They have a tradition called the Challenger's Right. If a new species can prove its worth, they can join as equals, not slaves. The room erupted in voices until President Clark raised her hand. Captain Reed, we don't have warships. We don't have alien weapons. What exactly are you suggesting? Reed's eyes narrowed. We ask for scrap, and we build something they've never seen before. 3 days later, Reed stood before the same leaders, but this time the enormous face of Ambassador Vex loomed on the screen behind him. You amuse us, humans, the alien said after hearing Reed's proposal. Very well. We will grant you access to Disposal Moon K7. It is where we discard outdated and broken vessels. If you can build something that survives even one battle with our smallest scout ship, we will consider your petition for equal membership. President Clark leaned forward. And if we accept this challenge, you'll postpone your deadline. You will have 1 Earth year, Vex replied, its 6 eyes blinking in sequence. No more. After the transmission ended, General Wilson laughed bitterly. A junkyard. They're mocking us. No, Reed said firmly. They're underestimating us. And that's exactly what we need. The shuttle approached the gray moon slowly. Through the viewport, Reed could see the massive field of metal stretching across the cratered surface. Twisted hulls, broken engines, and shattered pieces of ships from a dozen alien civilizations spread out before them. Beside him, Dr. Anna Wells whistled low. That's a lot of scrap, she said. Her dark eyes were already analyzing, categorizing. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical physics, she'd been Reed's first recruit. 1 person's trash, Reed said with a smile. Behind them, Mike Foster unbuckled his harness. The young engineer had graduated top of his class at MIT and had an uncanny ability to make incompatible systems work together. It's beautiful, Foster said, pressing his face to the glass. Look at those hull designs. Those aren't even made of materials we've classified yet. The shuttle landed with a soft bump. As the door hissed open, a thin alien with blue-tinted skin was waiting for them. He wore what looked like armor, though it was more ceremonial than functional. I am Krell, your assigned observer, he said in perfect English. The Council has sent me to monitor your progress and ensure you don't exceed the allowed resources. Reed stepped forward and extended his hand. Captain Tom Reed. Krell looked at the hand, but didn't take it. Follow me. I will show you the living quarters and work areas you are permitted to use. As they walked across the lunar surface in their environmental suits, Reed noticed how Krell moved with a certain smugness. The alien clearly thought this whole exercise was pointless. Has any species ever succeeded at the Challenger's Right? Reed asked casually. Krell's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. 3 have tried. None have succeeded. Always a first time, Foster muttered behind them. The base was a simple dome structure with airlocks and basic facilities. It would house the 50 engineers and specialists Reed had selected for the mission. As the team settled in, Reed called Wells and Foster to join him on a small rise overlooking the scrapyard. "It looks worse up close," Wells admitted, surveying the jumble of broken ships and parts. "Some of these pieces are completely fried." Reed shook his head. "Look deeper. See that hull section with the purplish tint? That's Argon-class armor, supposedly impenetrable to energy weapons. And that engine core, it's from a Suntory cruiser. Outdated for them, maybe, but centuries ahead of our tech." Foster was already taking readings with a handheld scanner. "Captain, some of these power signatures are still active. Dormant, but active." Reed smiled for the first time since the aliens had appeared in Earth's skies. "The Council thinks they're giving us garbage, but they don't understand humans very well. We've been making do with less for our entire history," Wells said, catching his enthusiasm. "Exactly," Reed nodded. "They've never had to adapt like we have. Never had to improvise or make repairs with whatever's on hand." Foster looked up from his scanner with a grin. "They have no idea what we can do with a pile of scrap, do they?" Reed turned to look at the hundreds of broken ships stretching to the horizon. "No, but they're going to learn." As the Earth team began to organize their work areas, Krell watched from a distance, sending his first report back to the Council. "Humans have arrived at K7. They are excited by the garbage. They will be easy to defeat." Little did he know that the first components of what would become the most feared ship in the galaxy were already being collected as Captain Reed's team began their impossible task, turning alien scrap into humanity's salvation. 2 months into the project, the scrapyard moon was transformed. What had been piles of twisted metal and broken hulls was now an organized operation. The Earth team had set up work zones, testing areas, and a central platform where the skeleton of their ship was slowly taking form. Tom Reed stood at the command center, a repurposed alien communications hub they'd found mostly intact. Holographic displays showed the progress of different teams across the vast scrapyard. "How's the power core coming along?" Reed asked as Dr. Wells entered, her face smudged with some purple substance. "Challenging," she replied, wiping her hands on her already dirty jumpsuit. "I've never seen materials that react this way. It's like they're almost alive." Reed nodded. They were all facing the same problem. Alien technology didn't work like Earth tech. It wasn't just more advanced. It operated on different principles entirely. "Show me," he said. Wells led him to her workshop where 3 different energy cores sat on reinforced tables. One glowed blue, another pulsed with a green light, and the third emitted a soft orange glow. "This blue one is from a Draxi science vessel," Wells explained. "It produces incredible power, but it's unstable. The green one is steady but weaker. And this orange one," she paused. "It's ancient. I mean, really ancient. The readings suggest it's at least 50,000 years old, but it still works perfectly." Reed examined the orange core. "Can we use it?" Wells shook her head. "Not alone. None of them have enough output for what we need. But I've been thinking." She pulled up a diagram on her tablet. "What if we connected all 3? Each has different properties. Together, they might create a stable, powerful system. Has anyone ever done that before?" Reed asked. "I asked Krell. He said combining cores from different species would cause a catastrophic failure. The energies aren't compatible." Reed smiled slowly. "And you don't believe him?" Wells grinned back. "Humans have been combining incompatible things throughout our history. It's practically our specialty." On the other side of the camp, Mike Foster was having an argument with Krell. "These whole pieces can't be integrated," the alien insisted. "The molecular structure of argon armor will reject bonding with Suntory metals." Foster ran his hand through his messy hair in frustration. "Look, I've analyzed both materials. Yes, They're different, but with the right interface layer, they'll hold. Impossible, Krell stated flatly. No species has ever successfully merged these technologies. Maybe no species ever needed to badly enough, Foster muttered as Krell walked away. Foster returned to his work, sketching designs on a large touchscreen. Around him, other engineers were testing small pieces of different alien metals, trying to find ways to join them together. A young engineer named Lisa Patel approached with a small object in her hand. "Mike, look at this." She held up what looked like a simple bolt, but it was shifting color slightly, adjusting to the metal it touched. "It's some kind of adaptive fastener," she explained. "I found thousands of them in a container from a trading ship. They seem to form molecular bonds with whatever they connect." Foster's eyes widened. "That's it. We don't need to make the materials compatible. We just need something that can work with both." Within days, Foster's team had figured out how to use the adaptive fasteners to join hull sections that should never have fit together. The ship was starting to take a real shape now. Unusual and asymmetrical, but structurally sound. Reed stood with Wells and Foster on the observation platform. Below them, hundreds of workers were assembling pieces of what would eventually become their ship. "We need a name," Reed said suddenly. Wells looked at the strange, patchwork vessel taking shape. "It's rising from discarded pieces, given new life." "Phoenix," Foster suggested. "In Earth mythology, the phoenix rises from its own ashes." Reed nodded. "Phoenix it is." As they spoke, Krell approached. Over the weeks, the alien had become a constant presence, watching their progress with growing curiosity. "Your methods are unorthodox," he commented, looking down at the construction. "That's a polite way of saying crazy," Foster replied with a grin. "The Council receives my reports with great amusement," Krell continued. "They believe you are building a primitive defensive vessel that will be destroyed in seconds." Reed studied Krell's face. "And what do you believe?" The alien hesitated. "I am beginning to think the Council may be underestimating your species." That night, after most of the team had retired to their quarters, Reed found himself alone at the command center. He was reviewing scan data of a particularly interesting piece of wreckage they hadn't yet explored, a ship of unknown origin buried under other debris. "Still working, Captain." Reed turned to see Lisa Patel, the young engineer who had discovered the adaptive fasteners. "Just following a hunch," he replied, showing her the scans. "This ship is different from the others. The design doesn't match any known Council species." Patel studied the images. "The geometry is unusual, almost recursive." "I want to check it out tomorrow," Reed said. "Care to join me?" The next morning, Reed, Patel, and two other engineers took a small transport to the far edge of the scrapyard. The mysterious ship was mostly buried, with only part of its sleek hull visible above the lunar dust. "Looks like it crashed rather than being dumped here," Reed observed as they approached. "And the Council just buried it under other scrap. It took hours to clear enough debris to access what appeared to be an entry point. The door mechanisms were long dead, so they had to cut their way in." Inside, the ship was dark except for their flashlights. The interior was surprisingly intact, with smooth surfaces and curves unlike the angular designs favored by Council races. "This is incredible," Patel whispered, running her hand along a wall that seemed to respond to her touch, lighting up faintly. Reed moved deeper into the vessel, searching for the bridge or control center. What he found instead left him speechless. In a spherical room at the center of the ship, a soft blue light pulsed rhythmically. It emanated from a crystalline structure suspended in the middle of the chamber. "Is that the ship's brain?" Patil asked, staring at the beautiful object. Reed approached it carefully. As he got closer, the pulsing quickened, as if responding to his presence. "I think it's still alive," he said quietly. "An artificial intelligence, preserved all this time." Back at the camp that evening, Reed called an emergency meeting with Wells and Foster. "If we can interface with this AI, understand its technology," Wells began, her mind racing with possibilities. It could change everything, Reed finished. But we need to keep this quiet, especially from Krell. For the first time since they arrived on the scrapyard moon, Reed felt a genuine spark of hope. The Council had given them garbage, thinking humans would fail. Instead, they had given humanity exactly what it needed to fight back. The Phoenix would rise, and it would carry this ancient intelligence with it, a weapon the Galactic Council would never see coming. "It's not working," Foster groaned, dropping his head into his hands. For 3 weeks, he had been trying to communicate with the crystalline AI they'd discovered. The beautiful blue crystal pulsed on the table in front of him, responding to their presence, but refusing to interface with any of their systems. Dr. Wells placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll figure it out. We always do." Reed paced the secure lab they had built to hide the crystal from Krell and any other Council observers. Half their year was gone. The Phoenix's outer hull was nearly complete, but without a proper control system, it would never fly. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Reed said suddenly. "We've been trying to make it understand our technology. Maybe we need to understand its language first." Lisa Patel looked up from her workstation. "Like learning to speak alien." "Exactly," Reed nodded. "This AI is ancient. It might not communicate the way we do, or even the way the Council races do." Wells snapped her fingers. "Patterns. That's it. The crystal responds to patterns. Light, sound, even touch. It's been trying to talk to us this whole time." For the next 72 hours, the team worked without rest. They exposed the crystal to different patterns of light, sound waves, and electrical impulses, recording its responses. On the 4th day, Foster let out a whoop of excitement. "I got something." On his screen, a complex waveform pulsed in sync with the crystal's glow. "It's like music," Patel whispered. "A language of harmonics." Foster had built a simple translator that converted the crystal's pulses into visual data. As they watched, patterns began to form on the screen. Not words, but concepts, impressions, memories. "It's showing us how to connect with it," Wells said in awe. Reed studied the patterns, and how to keep it hidden from the Council. Outside the secret lab, the Phoenix continued to take shape. From a distance, it looked crude. A patchwork vessel with mismatched hull sections and awkward bulges. This was deliberate. "The weapons systems are completely disguised," Foster explained to Reed as they walked the length of the ship. "These protrusions look like poorly integrated sensor arrays, but they're actually housing the plasma cannons we salvage from the Draxi vessel." Reed nodded approvingly. "And the shield generators, hidden in what appears to be external coolant systems. Krell thinks they're just heat exchangers." Speaking of the alien, Krell approached them, tablet in hand. Over the months, his initially smug attitude had evolved into reluctant respect, though he still reported regularly to his superiors. "Captain Reed," he called, "the Council has requested an update on your progress. They are particularly interested in your propulsion system." Reed smiled easily. "Still working on it. We've adapted some old ion drives, but they're inefficient. Nothing that would impress the Council." This was a lie. In reality, they had discovered a revolutionary propulsion system in the wreckage of an ancient scout ship, technology that predated even the Council itself. Krell made notes on his tablet. "At your current progress, the Phoenix will be barely faster than your Earth vessels. This is disappointing." "We're doing our best with what we have," Reed shrugged. As Krell walked away, Foster leaned in. "He suspects something." "Let him," Reed replied. "As long as he doesn't discover what's really happening inside the Phoenix, we're fine." In the heart of the ship, Dr. Wells was integrating her triple-core power system. Against all Council knowledge, she had successfully combined the 3 different alien energy sources into one stable, incredibly powerful unit. "The harmonic resonance between the cores actually amplifies the output," she explained to Reed when he joined her. "We're getting nearly 10 times the power we expected." Reed inspected the glowing system. "Can we hide this energy signature?" The Council will detect it once we launch. Already taken care of, Wells said proudly. I've designed dampening fields that make it read like a standard fusion reactor, primitive by their standards. Reed smiled. You're a genius, Anna. I know, she replied with a grin. 6 months later, with only 8 weeks remaining before their deadline, the Phoenix was nearly complete. From the outside, it looked like a cobbled-together mess, asymmetrical, with exposed pipes and what appeared to be hastily patched hull breaches. Inside was a different story. The Crystal Eye, which they had named Oracle, was now fully integrated into the ship's systems. It didn't speak in words, but its intuitive interface allowed the crew to control the Phoenix in ways no human ship had ever been controlled. It's like the ship becomes an extension of your thoughts, Foster explained as he demonstrated the navigation system. Oracle anticipates what you want to do before you even input the command. The weapons systems were equally revolutionary. Using the crystal's guidance, they had integrated technologies from a dozen different alien species, combinations that Council engineers would have deemed impossible. The shield system was Foster's pride and joy. He had reverse-engineered damaged shield generators from 3 different ships, and with Oracle's help, combined them into a layered defense that could adapt to different types of weapons. The outer layer absorbs energy weapons, he told Reed. The middle layer deflects physical projectiles, and the inner layer blocks radiation and exotic particles. The Council has nothing like it because they've never needed to combine technologies this way. One evening, Reed found Krell standing alone, looking up at the Phoenix. The alien seemed troubled. Something wrong? Reed asked, coming to stand beside him. Krell didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, My latest report to the Council stated that your ship is primitive and poses no threat. Reed kept his face neutral. Isn't that what you believe? Krell turned to face him. It was. Now I am not certain. He hesitated. Captain Reed, there is something you should know. The Council never intended to honor the Challenger's right. Even if you succeed, they plan to destroy Earth anyway. Reed felt cold inside but maintained his calm exterior. Why tell me this? Because, Krell said slowly, in all my years serving the Council, I have never seen any species accomplish what yours has done here. You were given garbage, and you've built something. I'm not sure what exactly, but it's more than should be possible. He looked back at the Phoenix. The Council fears what they don't understand, and they don't understand humans. Reed placed a hand on Krell's shoulder. Would you like to understand us better? Krell's eyes widened. What are you suggesting? Come with me, Reed said. I want to show you something. That night, Krell was introduced to Oracle. As the alien stood in awe before the pulsing crystal, the Phoenix's true potential was revealed to him. For the first time in his life, Krell began to question everything the Council had taught him. If they discover this, he whispered. They won't, Reed assured him. Not until it's too late. The deadline was approaching quickly. But now, with Krell's help and Oracle's guidance, Reed was confident the Phoenix would not only fly, it would change the galaxy forever. The message from Earth came during the night shift. Reed was in the command center with Wells and Foster when the transmission broke through. President Clark's face appeared on screen, lined with worry. Captain Reed, we have a situation. A Council fleet has entered the solar system. They're claiming it's a routine patrol, but they've positioned themselves near our lunar colony. Reed felt his stomach tighten. They're early. We still have 3 weeks before the deadline. I don't think they plan to wait, the president replied grimly. Our intelligence suggests they're preparing for a show of force. The screen flickered as another transmission cut in. It was a news feed from the lunar colony. Reed and his team watched in horror as a Council warship fired on the civilian settlement. Buildings collapsed, emergency sirens wailed, and people ran in panic. No, Wells whispered, covering her mouth. The attack was brief but devastating. When it was over, President Clark returned to the screen. 5,000 people, she said, her voice shaking with anger. "They're calling it a regrettable accident during a weapons test." Reed's hands clenched into fists. "It was no accident. It's a message." "Can you launch?" President Clark asked directly. Reed looked at Wells and Foster. They had planned 3 more weeks of testing, but time had just run out. "We'll be ready in 24 hours, he promised. As the transmission ended, Krell burst into the command center. "I just received word. The Council has ordered a demonstration strike on your colony. I tried to warn them that it violated our agreement, but—" He stopped when he saw their faces. "You're too late," Reed said coldly. "They've already done it." Krell's face fell. I am sorry. This is not honorable." "We're launching tomorrow," Reed told him. "Are you with us or against us?" The alien straightened his shoulders. "I am with you, Captain Reed." The launch preparations were frantic but methodical. For months, they had rehearsed this moment, running simulations and drills. Now it was real. The Phoenix's true control room was deep within the ship, protected by multiple layers of armor. Reed sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by his core team. Foster manned the navigation console, with Wells monitoring the power systems. Krell stood nearby, providing tactical information about Council ship formations. "Final system checks," Reed ordered as the countdown reached 10 minutes. "Triple core power system running at optimal levels," Wells reported. "Oracle is fully integrated and responsive," Foster added. "Navigation and weapons systems are green." Reed activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Captain Reed to all crew. We are about to face the most advanced military force in the galaxy. They think they know what we're bringing to the fight. They're wrong." He paused, looking around at the determined faces of his crew, 50 of Earth's finest, who had worked miracles with alien scrap. "Today we show the Council what humans can do. Today we show them that Earth will not bow down. Today Phoenix rises." The engines ignited with a soft hum that gradually built to a powerful roar. The ship lifted smoothly from the lunar surface, leaving behind the scripture that had been their home for nearly a year. "Set course for the Council fleet," Reed ordered. "Maximum speed." Foster grinned. "Showing them our primitive engines, Captain." Reed smiled back. "Let's not reveal all our surprises at once." The Council fleet consisted of 7 ships, 6 escorts surrounding a command vessel. They were sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons that could reduce a planet to dust. Admiral Zex of the Council forces was reviewing the attack plan when his sensor officer called out, "Admiral, we're detecting a small vessel approaching from the scrapyard moon." Zex waved a dismissive hand. "The humans are launching their ship early. Put it on screen." The view screen showed the Phoenix approaching. Its mismatched hull plates and exposed systems made it look cobbled together and vulnerable. Zex laughed. "That's their champion. It looks like it will fall apart before we even fire on it." His weapons officer seemed less certain. "Sir, its approach vector and speed suggest advanced navigation capabilities." "Impossible," Zex snapped. "Our observer reported they only managed to salvage basic ion engines." He leaned forward. "Send 2 interceptors to destroy it. Let's show these humans the futility of resistance before we finish their planet." On the Phoenix, Krell identified the approaching Council ships, Razor-class interceptors, fast, maneuverable, with energy cannons and missile systems. Reed nodded. "Standard formation." "Yes," Krell confirmed. "They'll try to flank us, attacking from opposite sides." Reed turned to Foster. "Prepare evasive pattern, Omega. Let them think we're barely able to dodge." As the interceptors approached, the Phoenix performed a clumsy evasive maneuver, narrowly avoiding the first volley of energy blasts. "They've taken the bait," Reed said with satisfaction. "Now let's show them our first surprise. Activate camouflaged weapon systems." Panels that had appeared to be poorly repaired hull sections slid open, revealing advanced plasma cannons. The Council interceptors, not expecting any significant weaponry, flew directly into the Phoenix's firing range. Target their propulsion systems, Reed ordered. Let's take them alive if possible. The Phoenix fired. Brilliant blue energy beams lanced out, striking both interceptors with precision. Their engines failed immediately, leaving them drifting in space. On the Council command ship, Admiral Zex stared in disbelief. How is this possible? Scramble all vessels. Destroy that human ship. The remaining Council ships moved to attack, their superior weapons charging. They're targeting us with everything they have, Krell warned. Standard Council protocol is to overwhelm unknown threats immediately. Reed nodded calmly. Just what we expected. Dr. Wells, activate the shield system. Wells pressed her hand to a console that pulsed with Oracle's blue light. Shield harmonics aligned. All 3 layers active. The Council vessels fired simultaneously. Energy weapons, projectiles, and exotic particle beams converged on the Phoenix, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The impacts against the shield created a spectacular light show, but when it faded, the Phoenix remained untouched. Shields holding at 87%, Wells reported, unable to keep the triumph from her voice. On the Council command ship, panic was setting in. Impossible, Admiral Zex shouted. No technology can withstand that barrage. His tactical officer was frantically analyzing data. Sir, they appear to be using multiple shield technologies simultaneously. The configuration is unlike anything in our database. Zex slammed his fist down. I don't care how they did it. Destroy them now. Reed watched the Council ships regrouping for another attack. I think it's time to show them what Phoenix can really do. Mr. Foster, bring us to attack speed. Foster grinned and placed his hands on Oracle's interface. With pleasure, Captain. The Phoenix surged forward with sudden, impossible speed, closing the distance to the Council fleet in seconds. The patchwork exterior began to reconfigure, smooth plates sliding into place to reveal a sleek, deadly warship. Target their weapons systems, Reed ordered. Disable, don't destroy. The Phoenix danced through the Council formation, its weapons fired with precision, crippling ship after ship. The alien vessels, never designed to fight something so adaptive and unpredictable, couldn't land a single hit in return. Within minutes, 6 of the 7 Council ships were drifting, powerless. Only Admiral Zex's command vessel remained operational. Reed opened a communication channel. This is Captain Thomas Reed of the Earth vessel Phoenix. Your ships are disabled. Surrender now. Admiral Zex appeared on screen, his alien features contorted with rage. This is impossible. You were given nothing but garbage. Reed smiled. We were given exactly what we needed. Your council made a mistake, Admiral. You judged us by your standards, but humans have always had to adapt, to make do with less. You gave us scrap. We built something better than anything you have. Zex snarled. This changes nothing. The full Council armada will crush your pathetic planet. Then we'll be ready for them too, Reed replied calmly. But first, let's discuss the 5,000 innocent people your ships killed at our lunar colony. The Council Admiral's face showed genuine confusion. What attack? We conducted no such strike. Reed and Krell exchanged a look of alarm. If the Council fleet hadn't attacked the lunar colony, then who had? The answer came as a massive ship suddenly appeared from behind Earth's moon, unlike any Council design Krell had ever seen. Captain, Krell said urgently, that's not a Council vessel. I believe we've just met the real enemy. The Phoenix had won its first battle, but a much greater threat was revealing itself. The true test of humanity's scrapyard warship was about to begin. The mysterious ship loomed large against the backdrop of Earth. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the largest Council vessel, with a dark hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. What is that thing? Foster whispered, staring at the view screen. Krell's face had paled to a lighter shade of blue. It's a harvester. I thought they were just stories to frighten young ones. Well, it looks pretty real to me, Wells said. And based on its weapons signature, it's what attacked our lunar colony. Reed turned to Krell. Tell us everything you know. The alien's voice trembled slightly. The stories say they appear once every few centuries. They harvest resources and populations. Some believe they're the reason several ancient species disappeared completely. And the Council knows about them? Reed asked sharply. Krell nodded. The Council doesn't just know. They have an arrangement. The Harvesters leave Council worlds alone, and in exchange, the Council offers up non-member worlds. Reed finished grimly. Like Earth. A transmission cut through their discussion. The screen filled with a face that was neither human nor like any Council species. It had multiple eyes set in a triangular pattern and skin that looked metallic. Attention primitive vessels, it said in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. Your world has been selected for harvest. Do not interfere. Reed stood up straight. This is Captain Thomas Reed of Earth Vessel Phoenix. You attacked our lunar colony and killed our people. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Your threats are meaningless. Your world has already been traded to us by the Galactic Council. This is merely Collection Day. The transmission ended abruptly. So much for the Challenger's right, Reed said bitterly. The game was rigged from the start. Admiral Zex's face appeared on a secondary screen. Captain Reed, we must form an alliance against this threat. The Harvester will destroy us all. Convenient that you want to work together now, Reed replied coldly. After you planned to destroy Earth anyway. I knew nothing of this arrangement. Zex protested. Most Council members don't. Only the High Council would authorize such a deal. Reed studied the Admiral's face and saw genuine fear there. Krell, is he telling the truth? Krell nodded. It is likely. The High Council keeps many secrets, even from its military. Reed made his decision. Very well, Admiral. We'll coordinate our defense. But when this is over, we will discuss the future of Earth and the Council in very different terms. The Harvester moved toward Earth, deploying smaller craft that began descending toward major cities. Those are collection ships, Krell explained. They'll take humans for processing. Reed's jaw tightened. Not if we stop them first. All hands to battle stations. The Phoenix accelerated toward the Harvester, with the repaired Council ships following behind. As they approached, the massive alien vessel fired energy beams that dwarfed anything the Council ships could produce. Evasive maneuvers, Reed ordered. Foster's hands danced across Oracle's interface, and the Phoenix performed a series of impossible turns, narrowly avoiding the deadly beams. The Council ships weren't as fortunate. 2 were hit directly and exploded in brilliant flashes. Their weapons are incredibly powerful, Wells reported. Our shields can maybe take 2 direct hits, but not more. Reed nodded. Then we don't get hit. Mr. Foster, bring us in close. They won't risk firing their main weapons near their own hull. The Phoenix dove toward the Harvester, weaving through a barrage of smaller weapons fire. Up close, the alien vessel was even more intimidating, covered in strange technology that pulsed with ominous energy. Dr. Wells, what are you seeing? Reed asked as they skimmed along the massive hull. Wells studied her readings. Their power systems are unlike anything I've seen before, almost like they're drawing energy from somewhere else. Not normal space. Reed turned to Krell. Weaknesses. The alien shook his head. The stories never mentioned any. Well, everything has a weakness, Reed said firmly. We just need to find it. As the Phoenix continued its run along the Harvester's hull, Oracle's interface began to pulse rapidly. Foster looked up in surprise. Captain, Oracle is trying to tell us something. I think it recognizes this technology. Reed leaned forward. Can it tell us how to fight it? Foster placed his hands on the crystal interface, closing his eyes as images and sensations flowed into his mind. Oracle says these ships come from outside our galaxy. They've been harvesting worlds for millions of years. That doesn't help us defeat them, Wells pointed out. Wait, Foster continued. Oracle says they have a central command node. If we can disrupt it, the entire ship will be vulnerable. Reed nodded. Where is this node? Foster pointed to a section of the ship on the tactical display. There. But it's protected by energy fields we can't penetrate with our weapons. Wells studied the data and suddenly smiled. But we might be able to disable those fields. Remember our triple core system. It generates a unique harmonic frequency. If we reverse it, we could create a disruption field. Reed finished. But we'd have to get very close. And we'd be defenseless while doing it. Foster added. We'd have to drop our shields to generate the disruption. Reed considered their options. We need a distraction. Admiral Zex agreed to the plan. His remaining ships would attack the Harvester from multiple angles, drawing its attention while the Phoenix approached the command node. This is likely a suicide mission, Zex warned. Then we'll make it count, Reed replied. The attack began with the Council ships launching a coordinated assault. The Harvester responded with overwhelming force, focusing its weapons on the Council vessels. Meanwhile, the Phoenix, running with minimal power to avoid detection, slipped beneath the Harvester's massive belly, approaching the location of the command node. Ready the disruption field, Reed ordered as they came into position. Shields down on my mark. Wells looked up, her face serious. Captain, once we activate this, we'll have maybe 30 seconds before our cores overload. Then we'll have to work fast, Reed said calmly. Shields down. Activate disruption field now. The Phoenix's shields dropped. Immediately, the triple core system began to emit a strange, pulsing energy that spread outward, washing over the Harvester's hull. It's working, Foster exclaimed. The protective field around the command node is fluctuating. Reed didn't hesitate. Fire everything we have at that node. The Phoenix unleashed its weapons, plasma cannons, missile systems, and a concentrated energy beam guided by Oracle's precision. The combined assault struck the now vulnerable command node with devastating effect. The Harvester shuddered as explosions rippled across its surface. Its massive weapons went dark, and collection ships began falling back to the mother vessel in disarray. Get our shields back up, Reed ordered as debris from the damaged Harvester rained down around them. Wells frantically rerouted power. The cores are nearly burnt out, but I can give you minimal shielding. A second, more powerful explosion tore through the Harvester's midsection. The massive ship began breaking apart, its strange technology failing catastrophically. We did it, Foster said in disbelief. But they weren't safe yet. As the Harvester disintegrated, a massive energy wave expanded outward. Brace for impact, Reed shouted. The wave hit the Phoenix with tremendous force, sending it tumbling through space. Emergency systems failed, and the lights flickered out. For several long moments, there was only darkness. Reed opened his eyes to see emergency lighting casting a soft glow throughout the bridge. Foster was helping Wells up from the floor, while Krell worked frantically at a damaged console. Status report, Reed said, his voice hoarse. We're alive, Wells replied with a weak smile. That's the good news. And the bad news? Power systems are fried. The triple core is completely burnt out. Reed looked at the view screen, which was showing a partial image of space where the Harvester had been. Only debris remained. Earth? Safe, Foster confirmed. The collection ships retreated when the mother vessel was destroyed. Reed turned to Krell. And the Council ships? The alien looked up from his console. 2 survived. Admiral Zex's command ship was lost. A transmission broke through the static on their communication system. It was President Clark. Phoenix, do you read? Captain Reed, please respond. Reed activated the channel. This is Reed. We're damaged but alive. The alien threat has been neutralized. The President's relief was visible. You've saved Earth, Captain. All of you are heroes. But Reed knew this was just the beginning. "Madam President, there's something you should know." The Council was trading non-member worlds to these harvesters. Earth wasn't the first, and it wouldn't have been the last. There was a long silence before President Clark spoke again. "Then what happens now?" Reed looked at Krell, who stepped forward. "I have been in contact with other Council ships. Word of what happened here, of both the Harvester deal and how humans defeated them, is spreading quickly. Many worlds are questioning the High Council's leadership. The Phoenix showed what's possible when different technologies are combined." Reed added, "Something the Council claimed couldn't be done. We've changed everything." Over the following weeks, as the Phoenix was repaired and upgraded, news arrived of uprisings on dozens of worlds. Species that had long been subjugated by the Council were demanding freedom and equal representation. A month after the battle, a delegation from these worlds arrived at Earth. Their leader, a being from a species long thought extinct, addressed the United Nations. The humans accomplished what no other species dared to try. With nothing but scraps, they built a vessel that defeated both the Council and the Harvesters. "We propose a new alliance, one based on cooperation and shared knowledge, not dominance and fear." The Phoenix, once a desperate gamble built from alien garbage, became the symbol of this new alliance. Its unique design, combining technologies from dozens of different species, represented the power of working together across differences. And Captain Reed, standing on the bridge of his rebuilt ship as it prepared to lead Earth's first official diplomatic mission to the stars, smiled at the irony. The Council had given them scrap, hoping to see them fail. Instead, humans had built not just the most feared warship in the galaxy, but a new future for all species. "Ready for the next adventure?" he asked his crew. Wells, Foster, and Krull, now officially Earth's first alien citizen, nodded in agreement. The Phoenix rose once more, carrying the hopes of not just one world, but many. The scrapyard ship had changed the galaxy forever. Captain Jake Reynolds tried not to smile as the room full of alien diplomats stared at the ship design floating in the air. The blue hologram showed every detail of the UES Phoenix, humanity's newest warship. It looked sleek and dangerous, even as just a picture. The meeting room on Galactic Union Station Alpha was big and round, with seats for all 12 alien races. The lights were dim so everyone could see the hologram clearly. Reynolds stood with Admiral Wilson, who was pointing at different parts of the ship design. "As you can see," Admiral Wilson said, "we've put the quantum pulse drive next to the shield generator. This makes the ship use much less power than normal." The room was quiet. Too quiet. Reynolds looked at the aliens' faces. The bug-like Trill seemed angry. The blue-skinned Veldorans looked shocked. The rock-like Arctians were hard to read, but they were leaning forward, always a sign of interest. Finally, the Trill ambassador stood up. He was tall, with a hard shell and clicking mouthparts. "This is impossible," he said, his voice sharp and loud. "The energy would tear your ship apart. You agreed to these limits when you joined us." Reynolds knew this would happen. Humans had only been part of the Galactic Union for 15 years. They were the newest members by hundreds of years. When Earth joined, they had to follow rules about what kinds of weapons and ships they could build. These rules kept peace between all the different alien races. The Phoenix broke those rules. Well, sort of. Admiral Wilson slid a small crystal across the table. It contained all the technical data about the ship. "We found a gap in the rules," he said calmly. "The Proxima Accords limit how much power ships can use, not how the parts are arranged. The Phoenix follows every specific rule." The Veldoran admiral, named Thos, hit the table with his webbed hand. His blue skin turned purple with anger. "This warship shouldn't exist. You've twisted our rules." "We've looked at them creatively," Reynolds said. He stepped forward. "And with the hive bugs attacking neutral space, the Union needs all the help it can get." The room erupted in angry voices. Some aliens shouted, others whispered to each other. The Phoenix wasn't just a ship, it was a statement. Humans had found a way around rules that had limited everyone else for centuries. 3 days later, Reynolds sat in a small bar on the lower level of the station. The place was designed to make all species comfortable, with different gravity settings in different areas. Reynolds sat in the human section, drinking something that was supposed to taste like whiskey, but didn't quite manage it. "Is this seat taken?" a voice asked. Reynolds looked up to see Mira, his old friend, and the lead engineer on the Phoenix project. She was tall and thin with dark hair pulled back tightly. "Please," he said, gesturing to the empty chair. "How did the technical review go?" Mira sat down with a groan. 6 hours of explaining our design to angry aliens, but they couldn't find any actual rule violations. Just a lot of "this isn't how things are done." Reynolds smiled. That's humanity's specialty, not doing things how they're done. The Arxian representative actually seemed impressed. Mira said, ordering a drink with a wave of her hand. "Asked a lot of smart questions. The Trill and Velderans are pushing for an emergency council vote to ban the design specifically," Reynolds said. "But word is they don't have enough support. Because half the council is secretly excited to see what the ship can do," Mira said with a small smile. "Even if they won't admit it." Reynolds nodded. The Galactic Union had been at peace for so long that many species had stopped innovating. The same ship designs had been used for hundreds of years. The Phoenix was something new. "Did you hear?" Mira asked, lowering her voice. "They're giving you command of the Phoenix." Reynolds sat up straighter. "What? When was this decided?" "This morning. Admiral Wilson pushed for it. Said you understand the ship better than anyone else." Reynolds felt excitement and worry at the same time. The Phoenix was untested. Theoretical. It might work perfectly, or it might explode the first time they tried to use the quantum drive. "When do we launch?" he asked. 2 weeks, Mira said. "They're rushing it because of the hive attacks. I'll be coming as chief engineer, by the way." Reynolds raised his glass. "To breaking the rules." Mira clinked her glass against his. "To breaking them creatively." 1 week later, Reynolds stood in a large observation room, looking at the Phoenix as it sat in the massive construction dock. The ship was bigger than he expected. 500 meters long, with smooth black armor and blue energy lines running along its hull. "Impressive, isn't it?" Admiral Wilson said, walking up beside him. "It's beautiful," Reynolds said honestly. "The council vote failed," Wilson said. "The Phoenix has official approval to launch, though 6 species filed formal protests." Reynolds turned to face the Admiral. "Sir, can I ask you something?" Wilson nodded. "Was this the plan all along? To force the Union to change?" Wilson looked out at the ship for a long moment. "The Union has been stuck for centuries, Captain. Same ships, same weapons, same tactics. Meanwhile, the hive keeps evolving, keeps getting stronger. Someone needed to shake things up. And that someone was us. Humans are good at breaking rules, Reynolds. Always have been. It's our best quality and our worst. But right now, the galaxy needs rule breakers." Reynolds looked back at the Phoenix. "What are my orders once we launch?" "Patrol the border near the Cygnus corridor. Show the flag. Let the hive see what they're up against." Reynolds nodded. The Cygnus corridor was the latest area under attack by the hive. A growing threat of insect-like aliens different from the Trill. No one knew where they came from, but they had been attacking outer colonies for the past year. 1 week until launch, Wilson said. "Your crew is being notified now." "Any of them aliens?" Reynolds asked. Wilson shook his head. "Not this time. The other species weren't ready to put their people on an impossible ship." "Their loss," Reynolds said. "Indeed," Wilson agreed, "though I suspect that will change after the Phoenix proves itself." As Wilson left, Reynolds kept looking at his new command. The ship that shouldn't exist. The rule breaker. In 1 week, they would find out if breaking the rules was enough to face what was coming. 1 week passed quickly. Launch day arrived with little fanfare. The Galactic Union leadership had decided a quiet departure was best. No ceremony, no speeches. The Phoenix slipped away from the station like a secret being whispered to the stars. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching as his crew worked at their stations. Everything was new. The screens, the chairs, even the air smelled new. The bridge was bigger than standard Union ships, with a wide view screen showing the blackness of space ahead. "All systems check complete, Captain," said Commander Davis, his second in command. Davis was a solid man with a calm voice. "We are ready to engage main engines." Reynolds nodded. "Take us out, helm." 1/4 power. Lieutenant Parker, a young woman with short blonde hair, touched the controls. 1/4 power, by. The Phoenix moved smoothly, its engines barely making a sound. That was one of the strange things about the ship. It was quieter than it should be. The quantum pulse drive, when not at full power, hummed instead of roared. "We've cleared the station's traffic zone, sir," Parker reported. "Set course for the Cygnus corridor, standard speed," Reynolds ordered. "Let's break her in gently before we try anything fancy." As the ship accelerated, Reynolds felt a surge of pride. The Phoenix might be controversial, but it was his now, his responsibility, his command. He pressed a button on his chair. "Bridge to engineering." "Engineering here," Mira's voice replied. "How are things looking down there, Chief?" "The engines are purring like kittens, Captain, but I'm watching the quantum drive temperatures. They're running a bit hot, even at standard speed." Reynolds frowned. "Anything to worry about?" "Not yet," Mira said, "but I'd like to make some adjustments before we try a quantum jump. You've got 2 days before we reach the patrol zone. Make whatever changes you need." "Understood, Captain." Engineering out. Reynolds leaned back in his chair. The first real test would come when they had to use the quantum pulse drive at full power. That was the heart of the Phoenix's impossible design, the drive that could push the ship faster than any other in the Union fleet, in theory. The next day, Reynolds toured the ship, meeting the crew and checking each department. The Phoenix carried 200 people, small for a ship its size, but the advanced systems meant fewer crew were needed. His last stop was engineering, where he found Mira under a large panel, only her legs sticking out. Tools were scattered around her. "Problems?" he asked. Mira slid out, her face smudged with grease. "Just making adjustments. The quantum drive is designed to work with the shield generators in a way no one's tried before. Everything looks good on paper, but paper doesn't fly in space," Reynolds finished. It was an old saying among spacers. "Exactly." Mira stood up and wiped her hands on a rag. "I've reduced the power flow by 6%. It should run cooler now. Will that affect performance?" "It means we'll use slightly more energy when we jump, but the system will be more stable. Better safe than scattered across 3 sectors." Reynolds nodded. "Good call." Alarm sounded, and both their communicators beeped at the same time. "Captain to the bridge," came Commander Davis's voice. Reynolds and Mira exchanged looks before they both ran for the door. When Reynolds reached the bridge, Davis was standing by the communications station. "Report," Reynolds said. "We've received a distress call from the mining colony on Vega AX," Davis explained. "They're under attack by hive forces." Reynolds moved to the main screen, which now showed a star map. "Where's Vega AX in relation to us?" "Here, sir," Davis pointed. 8 hours away at standard drive." Lieutenant Mason, the communications officer, looked up from her station. "Sir, the message says they're facing 3 hive cruisers. Their shields are failing." "Any other Union ships in range?" Reynolds asked. "The U.S. Defender is 10 hours out," Mason replied. "They're already at maximum speed." Reynolds felt the weight of command press down on him. Vega IX was a small mining colony with about 10,000 people. If the shields failed before help arrived, "What about us?" he asked, turning to Davis. How quickly could we reach them using the quantum drive? Davis hesitated. 30 minutes at full capacity. But sir, we haven't tested it yet. Reynolds looked around the bridge. Everyone was watching him, waiting for his decision. Mira, he said into his communicator, can the drive get us to Vega IX? Yes, she replied. But I can't promise it won't shake us apart in the process. Reynolds made his decision. Alert medical to prepare for possible casualties. All hands to emergency stations. He sat in his command chair. Helm, plot a course to Vega IX. Prepare for quantum jump. The bridge crew moved quickly, securing stations and checking systems. Course plotted, sir, Parker reported. Engineering reports quantum drive ready, Mason added. Reynolds took a deep breath. Engage quantum drive. Full power. Parker pushed the controls forward. The ship hummed louder, then louder still until the sound became a deep throb that they could feel through the floor. Quantum field forming, Davis reported, watching his screen. Drive power at 80%, 90,100%. The view on the screen stretched and blurred. Reynolds gripped his chair as the ship shuddered around them. We're entering quantum space, Parker said, her voice tight with concentration. The shuddering grew worse. A console at the back of the bridge sparked and went dark. Power surge in Section 4, someone called out. Reroute through secondary systems, Reynolds ordered. The ship lurched sideways, throwing 2 crew members from their seats. Captain, Mira's voice came through the speakers. The quantum field is destabilizing. The drive housing is showing microfractures. How long to Vega IX? Reynolds asked Davis. 22 minutes at current speed. Another panel exploded in sparks. The lights flickered. Shield generators are overheating, Davis reported. If they fail while we're in quantum space. He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. The ship would be torn apart. Mira, can you stabilize the drive? Reynolds asked. I'm trying. Diverting coolant now. It's working, temperature dropping. But the microfractures are still spreading. Reynolds faced an impossible choice. Push on and risk his ship and crew, or drop out of quantum space and reach Vega IX too late. Captain, Davis said quietly, Vega IX has 10,000 civilians. Reynolds nodded. Maintain course and speed. Mira, do whatever you have to. Keep that drive together for 20 more minutes. I'll try, Captain. But you need to know, even if we make it there, we may not make it back. One problem at a time. Chief. Reynolds turned to Mason. Send a message to Vega IX. Tell them help is coming. As the impossible ship pushed deeper into quantum space, systems straining beyond their limits, Reynolds watched the countdown timer. 20 minutes until they reached Vega IX. 20 minutes to prove that breaking the rules had been worth it. 20 minutes to save 10,000 lives, or lose everything trying. The Phoenix shuddered again, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hold together, Reynolds whispered to his ship. Just hold together. The Phoenix burst out of quantum space with a flash of blue light. The ship shook violently one last time, then steadied. Emergency alarms blared across all decks. Status report, Reynolds demanded, gripping his chair as the bridge stopped shaking. Davis checked his console, which flickered twice before stabilizing. We've arrived at Vega IX, Captain. Quantum drive is offline. Hull integrity at 94%. Shields at 85%. Weapons systems, Reynolds asked. Online and functional, reported Lieutenant Wells from the tactical station. Reynolds looked at the main view screen. The scene before them was chaos. 3 massive Hive cruisers surrounded the small mining colony of Vega IX. The colony's shields glowed weakly under constant bombardment from Hive weapons. Time until their shields fail, Reynolds asked. Mason checked her readings. 15 minutes at most, sir. Open a channel to the colony, Reynolds ordered. After a moment, Mason nodded. Channel open. This is Captain Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. We've received your distress call and are moving to engage the Hive forces. Hold on a little longer. A strained voice replied over the speakers. Phoenix, this is Governor Bell. Thank God you're here. Our generators can't take much more. We have 10,000 people in the shelters. We'll handle it, Reynolds promised. Phoenix out. He turned to Davis. Tactical assessment. Davis studied the display. 3 Hive cruisers, standard formation. They haven't noticed us yet. They're focused on the colony. Reynolds nodded. Let's use that to our advantage. Target the lead cruiser with the main cannon. The Phoenix's main weapon was the heart of its controversial design. By linking the quantum drive to the weapons systems, the ship could fire energy beams that no standard shield could stop. Target locked, Wells confirmed. Mira, Reynolds called through the communicator. Can we fire the main cannon? Yes, she replied, her voice tight with stress. But the quantum drive took heavy damage during the jump. We won't be jumping again anytime soon. Understood. Prepare to fire main cannon. The bridge grew quiet as the weapons system charged. The Phoenix hummed with power as energy flowed from its core to the forward cannon. Weapon at full charge, Wells reported. Reynolds leaned forward in his chair. Fire. A brilliant beam of blue-white energy shot from the Phoenix. It crossed the space between them and the lead Hive cruiser in an instant. The beam cut through the alien ship shields like they weren't even there. The cruiser's hull split open, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Direct hit, Wells called out. Enemy vessel critically damaged. The view screen showed the Hive cruiser breaking apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. The other Hive ships are breaking off their attack on the colony, Davis reported. They're turning to engage us. Reynolds had expected this. Helm, bring us between the Hive and the colony. Tactical, prepare secondary weapons. The Phoenix moved smoothly into position, its engines pushing it faster than a ship its size should be able to move. On the view screen, the 2 remaining Hive cruisers grew larger as they approached. They're powering weapons, Wells warned. Raise shields to maximum, Reynolds ordered. Evasive pattern Delta. The first shots from the Hive ships flashed across space. Most missed as the Phoenix twisted away, but 2 hit directly. The ship rocked under the impact. Shields holding at 72%, Davis reported. Return fire. All secondary cannons, Reynolds ordered. The Phoenix's smaller weapons opened up, sending pulses of energy toward the Hive ships. Unlike the main cannon, these were standard Union weapons, and the Hive shields blocked most of the shots. Minimal damage to enemy vessels, Wells said. Reynolds frowned. The main cannon needed time to recharge after its first shot. They would have to hold out until it was ready again. Captain, we're being hailed, Mason said with surprise. By the Hive. This was unusual. The Hive rarely communicated with Union forces. On screen, Reynolds said. The view screen changed to show a Hive commander. The alien looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and a hard exoskeleton. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke. Human vessel, the Hive commander said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. Your ship configuration is unknown to us. You have destroyed one of our cruisers. Surrender now or be destroyed. Reynolds stood up from his chair. This is Captain Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. You are attacking a civilian colony in Union space. It is you who should surrender. The Hive commander's eyes seemed to narrow. Your ship should not exist. Our scans show impossible energy readings. That's why it's called the Phoenix, Reynolds replied with a small smile. Now back away from the colony, or we'll show you what else this impossible ship can do. The Hive commander clicked its mandibles angrily. You will be destroyed. The screen went dark. Well, that went well, Davis commented dryly. How long until the main cannon can fire again? Reynolds asked. 3 minutes, Wells replied. We might not have 3 minutes, Davis warned. Both Hive cruisers are moving to flank us. Reynolds thought quickly. The Phoenix's regular weapons couldn't penetrate the Hive shields effectively, and their main advantage was temporarily unavailable. Mira, he called to engineering. What's the status of the shield generators? Running hot but stable, she replied. What are you thinking? Can we reverse the energy flow? Push power outward instead of holding it in. There was a pause before Mira answered. You want to create a shield pulse. That's never been tested. Theory suggests it should work, Reynolds insisted. Theory suggested this whole ship would tear itself apart. Mira reminded him. But yes, I think I can do it. It will drain our shields completely for about 30 seconds. That's our window, Reynolds decided. Do it on my mark. He turned to Wells. The moment our shield pulse hits them, target their propulsion systems with everything we've got. Both Hive cruisers were now on either side of the Phoenix, trapping it in a crossfire. Their weapons pounded against the Phoenix's shields. Shields down to 45%, Davis reported. We can't take much more of this. Stand by, Reynolds ordered. He waited until the Hive ships were at their closest approach. Now, Mira, shield pulse. The lights on the bridge dimmed as power surged to the shield generators. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Phoenix's shields expanded outward in a wave of blue energy. The pulse slammed into both Hive cruisers simultaneously, making their shields flicker and distort. Fire all weapons, Reynolds ordered. The Phoenix's secondary cannons fired in unison, targeting the engines of both Hive vessels. With their shields disrupted by the pulse, the shots hit home, causing explosions across their hulls. Direct hits, Wells reported excitedly. Their engines are damaged. Their shields are failing. Main cannon status, Reynolds asked. Ready to fire in 30 seconds. Reynolds nodded. Target the cruiser on the left. Prepare to fire. The Hive ships, damaged but not destroyed, were trying to move away from the Phoenix. They're retreating, Davis said with surprise. Not far enough, Reynolds replied. Fire main cannon. Once again, the brilliant beam shot from the Phoenix. It struck the targeted Hive cruiser midsection, cutting it nearly in half. The alien ship broke apart in a series of explosions. The last Hive cruiser accelerated away, limping on damaged engines. Should we pursue? Davis asked. Reynolds considered this. No. Our priority is the colony. Let it go. He turned to Mason. Contact Governor Bell. Tell him the colony is secure. As Mason relayed the message, the bridge crew broke into smiles and quiet cheers. They had done the impossible. A single ship defeating 3 Hive cruisers and saving 10,000 lives. Reynolds looked at the broken remains of the destroyed Hive ships on the view screen. The impossible ship just did the impossible, Davis said quietly. Reynolds nodded. And the galaxy will never be the same. 3 days after the battle at Vega IX, the Phoenix remained in orbit around the mining colony. The quantum drive was still offline, and Mira's engineering team worked around the clock to repair it. Standard Union ships had arrived to help the colony and provide additional protection. Captain Reynolds sat in his quarters, reviewing reports on a screen. There was a knock at his door. Enter, he called. Commander Davis stepped inside, holding a datapad. Sir, we've received a message from Union Command. They want us to return to Galactic Union Station Alpha as soon as possible. Reynolds frowned. Did they say why? No, sir, but there's more. The message was marked highest priority and signed by Admiral Wilson himself. Reynolds stood up. How are the repairs coming? Chief Engineer Mira says the quantum drive should be operational in 12 hours. Limited capacity only, maybe 30% of normal power. That will have to do, Reynolds said. Set course for Union Station Alpha. We leave as soon as the drive is ready. Davis hesitated. Sir, there's something else. News of what happened here has spread throughout the Union. We're getting messages from everywhere, some congratulating us, Others. He paused. Others not so happy. Reynolds finished for him. Yes, sir. The Trill and Velderan ambassadors have officially protested our unauthorized weapons deployment. Reynolds smiled grimly. We just saved 10,000 lives. You'd think they'd be more grateful. 10,000 human lives, Davis pointed out. And we did it with a ship that breaks all their rules. Reynolds nodded. Prepare the crew for departure. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our troubles. The return journey took 3 days at reduced speed. When they finally arrived at Union Station Alpha, the Phoenix was escorted by 4 standard Union patrol ships, an honor guard, or prison guards. Reynolds wasn't sure which. As they docked, Reynolds stood on the bridge, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Captain, Mason called from communications. We're being hailed by the station. On screen, Reynolds ordered. Admiral Wilson's face appeared. Captain Reynolds, welcome back. Your presence is requested in Council Chamber 1 immediately upon docking. Bring your first officer and chief engineer. Reynolds nodded. May I ask what this is about, Admiral? The Galactic Union Council has called an emergency session to discuss the Phoenix and its actions at Vega IX. I suggest you prepare to defend yourself, Captain. The screen went dark. That didn't sound good, Davis said quietly. Reynolds straightened his uniform. We did what was right. Now we face the consequences. The Grand Council chamber was the largest room on the station. It was circular, with raised seats for the representatives of all 37 member species of the Galactic Union. In the center was a speaking platform where those addressing the council would stand. The chamber was packed. Every seat was filled, and the viewing galleries were crowded with diplomats, military officers, and journalists from across the galaxy. Reynolds, Davis, and Mira entered and walked to the center platform. Admiral Wilson waited for them there. This is bigger than I expected, Reynolds whispered. The fate of the Phoenix has become the biggest story in the Union. Wilson replied quietly. What you did at Vega IX has forced everyone to take sides. The Velderan Council Chair, Admiral Thos, called the session to order. His blue skin looked almost purple under the chamber lights. This emergency session will now begin, he announced. We are here to discuss the deployment of the UES Phoenix, a ship whose very existence violates the spirit of the Proxima Accords and its actions in the Vega system. The Trill ambassador stood up. The human vessel used weapons of a type expressly forbidden by our agreements. They have upset the balance of power that has kept peace for centuries. Shouts of agreement came from several sections of the chamber. The Archean representative, a crystalline being that glowed softly, raised a limb. Point of order. Its translated voice chimed. The Phoenix's weapons were not explicitly forbidden. The humans found a creative solution to work within our rules. Rules that were meant to prevent exactly this kind of military advantage. The Trill insisted. Reynolds watched as the debate grew heated. Different species took different sides. The militaristic races seemed impressed by the Phoenix's capabilities. The diplomatic ones worried about precedent. The scientific minds were simply curious about human innovation. Finally, Admiral Wilson stepped forward. Members of the Council, I remind you that without the Phoenix, Vega IX would have fallen. 10,000 civilian lives were saved because this ship existed. At what cost? Asked the Velderan chair. If every species begins building ships like the Phoenix, where will it end? An arms race. War. Reynolds asked for permission to speak. When it was granted, he stepped to the center of the platform. I am Captain Jake Reynolds of the UES Phoenix. I want to make one thing clear. We did not set out to break your rules. We found a way to solve problems within them. He paused, looking around the chamber. The Phoenix saved lives. That's what ships like ours should do. A representative from a small, peaceful species called the Lumis stood up. They rarely spoke in council meetings. Captain Reynolds, what happens when another species builds ships like yours and uses them not to save lives, but to take them? Reynolds had no easy answer for that. Before he could respond, the chamber doors opened. A tall, insect-like alien entered, but not a Trill. This was a hive commander, flanked by Union security guards. The chamber went silent with shock. The hive rarely sent representatives to the Union. "I am Commander Krizak of the Hive Collective," the alien's translator spoke. "I have come to provide information about the true threat." Reynolds exchanged glances with Admiral Wilson. This was unexpected. The hive commander walked to the center of the chamber. "The vessel you call Phoenix destroyed 2 of our ships and damaged a 3rd. Such power is impressive." Its mandibles clicked. "But you do not understand why we attacked Vega IX. "Enlighten us," the Veldarin chair said coldly. "We detected signals from beyond the rim of the galaxy. Something is coming. Something worse than the hive. We attacked Vega IX to test its defenses, to see if your Union was ready." The hive's multiple eyes scanned the room. "You are not ready. But that ship," it pointed at Reynolds, "that impossible ship gives you a chance." Murmurs spread through the chamber as the council members digested this information. The Arxian representative chimed in. "Are you suggesting cooperation, Commander Krizak?" "I am suggesting survival," the hive replied. "My people have been fleeing from this threat for generations. Now it approaches your space." The chamber erupted in voices. The council chair called for order repeatedly before the noise died down. "In light of this new information," the chair announced, "I propose we table the issue of sanctions against Earth for the Phoenix's design. Instead, I call for a vote on the following. Should the Phoenix's technology be shared with all Union species to prepare for this potential threat?" Reynolds held his breath as the votes were tallied. The result appeared on screens around the chamber. By a margin of 1 vote, the chair announced, "The motion passes. Earth will provide full technical disclosure of the Phoenix's systems to all member species." As they left the chamber, Reynolds turned to Admiral Wilson. "Sir, if we share the Phoenix's designs..." Wilson nodded. "Every species will build their own versions." "I know." He smiled slightly. "But that was always the plan, Jake." Reynolds stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "The Phoenix wasn't just a warship. It was a message. A wake-up call to a Union that had become too comfortable with its own limitations." Wilson looked at the stars visible through a viewport. "Sometimes you need to break the rules to survive what's coming next." Reynolds realized the Phoenix had been as much a political tool as a military one. "So what happens now?" Wilson placed a hand on Reynolds' shoulder. "Now we prepare. Together." 6 months had passed since the emergency council meeting. Captain Jake Reynolds stood on the observation deck of Earth's main orbital shipyard, watching as the final work was completed on the UES Phoenix IU. The new ship was larger than its predecessor, with sleek black armor and blue energy lines running along its hull. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" Admiral Wilson said, walking up beside him. Reynolds nodded. "Bigger, faster, and hopefully less likely to tear itself apart." Wilson laughed. "The engineers tell me the quantum drive issues have been completely resolved. No more microfractures." Reynolds turned to look at the other construction bays visible through the large window. 5 more ships of similar design were in various stages of completion. "The Phoenix fleet is coming together nicely." "Not just our fleet," Wilson said, handing Reynolds a datapad. "Take a look." The pad showed images from shipyards across the Galactic Union. Veldarin ships with quantum pulse drives. Trill cruisers with advanced shield technology. Even the crystalline Arxians had adapted the Phoenix design to their unique requirements. "Everyone's building their own versions," Reynolds said. "And improving on our design in ways we never considered," Wilson added. "The Veldarins found a way to make the quantum drive 15% more efficient. The Trill developed a new shield configuration that reduces power consumption." Reynolds smiled. "So instead of an arms race, we got collaboration." "Exactly. When faced with a common threat, old rivals become allies. Even the Hive are sharing some of their biotechnology with us now." A young officer approached them, and saluted. "Admiral, Captain, the launching ceremony is about to begin." They followed her to the main ceremony hall, which was filled with officers from Earth and representatives from every Union species. At the front of the room was a large view screen showing the Phoenix Eye and its docking clamp. Wilson took the podium. 6 months ago, the Phoenix was considered impossible. It broke rules that had limited our potential for centuries. Today, we launch not just a new ship, but a new era of cooperation. He gestured to the alien representatives. "Each of your worlds has contributed to the Phoenix Eye. Velderan engine improvements, Trill shield configurations, Arxian sensor arrays, even Hive biological interfaces. Together, we've built something greater than any of us could have created alone." Reynolds sat in the front row, next to Mira, who would again serve as chief engineer. She leaned over and whispered, "Did you ever think breaking the rules would lead to this?" Reynolds shook his head. "Never, but I'm glad it did." After the speeches, Reynolds made his way to a shuttle that would take him to his new command. As he waited in the boarding area, Commander Davis approached. "Ready for another adventure, Captain?" Davis asked. "More than ready," Reynolds replied. "Though I admit, I'm curious about our mission." The orders were vague. Davis nodded. "All we know is that we're leading a mixed-species task force beyond the edge of charted space, to find whatever the Hive have been running from," Reynolds said quietly. The shuttle trip to the Phoenix Eye was short. When they arrived, Reynolds was surprised to see a diverse crew working throughout the ship, humans alongside Velderans, Trill, and even a few Hive specialists. "Captain on deck," someone called out as Reynolds stepped onto the bridge. Reynolds looked around. The new bridge was larger, with more advanced displays. Some of the stations were designed specifically for non-human crew members, wider seats for the Velderans, standing platforms for the Trill. "Status report," Reynolds ordered as he took his seat in the command chair. "All systems nominal, Captain," reported Lieutenant Parker from the helm. "Quantum drive at full capacity and stable." "Engineering reports ready," added Mira from her station. Reynolds nodded. "Communications, hail the other ships in our task force." Lieutenant Mason worked her controls. "Channel open to all vessels." "Sir." The main screen lit up, showing the bridges of 6 other ships, one from each major Union species, plus the original Phoenix, now commanded by a Velderan captain named Krell. "Task force captains reporting in," Mason said. Reynolds addressed them. "This is Captain Reynolds of the Phoenix Eye. Our mission is to investigate the threat from beyond our galaxy's edge. We're venturing into unknown space, facing an enemy none of us has seen before." He paused. 6 months ago, we were arguing over whether ships like ours should exist. Today, we're flying them together. I'd call that progress. The alien captains nodded or made their species-equivalent gestures of agreement. "Prepare for departure," Reynolds ordered. "Form up on the Phoenix Eye once we clear the shipyard." The docking clamps released, and the Phoenix Eye moved smoothly away from the station. One by one, the other ships joined formation. The Velderan Light of Truth, the Trill Harmony of Stars, the Arxian Crystal Defender, and 3 more. As they approached the jump point, Reynolds felt a mixture of pride and tension. The first Phoenix had broken the rules out of necessity. This fleet existed because everyone had finally recognized that some rules needed to be broken. "Task force is in position," Captain Davis reported. "All ships report ready for quantum jump." Reynolds looked at his diverse bridge crew. "Lieutenant Parker, set course for the coordinates provided by the Hive intelligence, beyond the galactic rim." "Course set, sir." Reynolds took a deep breath. "Signal all ships. Prepare for quantum jump on my mark." The bridge grew quiet as everyone prepared for the jump into the unknown. "All ships acknowledge ready, sir," Mason reported. Reynolds nodded. "Engage quantum drive." The stars on the view screen stretched into lines of light as the Phoenix Eye led the task force into quantum space. The impossible ship that shouldn't exist was now leading the greatest combined fleet in Union history. As the blue swirl of quantum space surrounded them, Reynolds thought about how far they had come. 6 months ago, they were outcasts for breaking the rules. Now they were the vanguard of a united galaxy. "Captain," Davis said quietly, "do you think we're ready for whatever's out there?" Reynolds watched as the task force followed them into the quantum tunnel, ships of different designs from different worlds all working together. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know this. If there's one thing humans are good at, it's breaking rules when they need to be broken. And now we've taught the rest of the galaxy how to do it too." Davis smiled. "Breaking rules creatively." "Exactly," Reynolds said, "and that might just save us all." The Phoenix I accelerated deeper into quantum space, its impossible engines pushing it faster than any ship should be able to go, breaking the rules of physics just as its creators had broken the rules of the Galactic Union. Behind it followed the United Fleet, heading toward an unknown enemy and an uncertain future, but doing so together. Sometimes, Reynolds thought, you had to break the rules to change the universe, and humans had always been very good at that.